And we are continuing to follow breaking news out of Lower Manhattan, where a parking garage has collapsed. It happened shortly after 4 o'clock on Ann Street between Nassau and William Streets. Here's what we know right now. 6 workers were inside that building when the collapse occurred. 4 were taken to the hospital in stable condition. 1 refused medical attention. Tragically, 1 of those workers has died. We have a team of reporters at the scene, and we're going to begin tonight with Lisa Evers with the very latest on today's collapse. Lisa, what can you tell us at this hour?
Well, Teresa, right now we are just down the street from where the parking garage collapsed. You can see the FDNY equipment that's right here. They had rushed down here to the scene immediately. And then you can see the ladder trucks as well with the baskets, the firefighters there looking at the outside of the parking garage, which was built in the 1950s. It was 4 stories, and it quickly became clear to first responders when they got here that the building was in, or that the structure was in danger of buckling, which in fact some of it did collapse in there. So according to the mayor, they used the robotic dog known as DigiDog to go in there in order to get a visual, a live stream video visual of what was happening in there so that they could get the workers who were in there out, get them out as safely as possible without injuring any of the first responders. So that's what had happened. So in terms of the cause of this, that was the other big question, of course, it being in Lower Manhattan here. A big question was, what was the cause of this? At this point, they don't know, but Police Commissioner Keechant Sewell was quite clear in saying that this did not appear to be any type of foul play, did not appear to be any type of explosive device, which people might have thought of when you hear a building collapse, and that it's something structural. They don't know exactly what caused it, but that's what they're going to be determining in the days and probably a couple of weeks ahead of time. Now, we have seen other workers come in here. Con Ed workers have come in. We've also seen MTA workers come in to try to get a sense of what is going on. Typically, when there's any type of disruption or problem with the building, the Con Ed workers will come here to decide whether or not they need to turn off the gas. We don't know what the situation is with that, but 1 person deceased, 6 other people injured, and that's what's happening right now. They're kind of wrapping things up. Investigation is now underway. Here is what Fire Department Chief Esposito told us just a short time ago.
An extremely dangerous operation for our firefighters. We responded to a call of a collapse in the building. We had firefighters inside the building conducting searches. The building was continuing to collapse. We made the decision to remove all our people from the building. Our robotics unit happened to be nearby. They were on scene very quickly. That structure is very unstable. It's a parking garage. We've had some of the slabs, a couple of floors of the concrete slab floors collapse, crush some of the cars that are inside, and this will be a prolonged operation.
Now, the chief talked about the robotics department within the fire department, those specialists. They also used, according to what they told us as well, they used drones to try to get a view above the parking garage as well to see what was going on, to get a view from the other side. Of course, in this part of Lower Manhattan, the buildings are very, very close together, so they said that was helpful to them in trying to get an assessment, especially early on, of the scope of this and just what they were dealing with before they went in. So that technology helped them, and of course the speed of the first responders. Fire department down here right away, police department coming also to back them up and close off some of these streets so that they could get these emergency vehicles in here right away. But that's the latest from here. Teresa, back to you in the studio.
Yeah, Lisa, as we watch your shot, we could even see how narrow those streets are down there, a hallmark of Lower Manhattan. Lisa, thank you.
Exactly.
All right, Lisa Evers, thank you. Now, as emergency crews continue to work at the scene, one of the main focuses of this investigation will now turn to this building where this collapse occurred. Arthur Chien continues our coverage and has more on what officials are focusing on right now. Arthur, what can you tell us?
Well, there are a couple of things that we should inform you about. One is that in addition to those who were hospitalized, the person who was killed in this, the body is still inside. Apparently that individual is on the first floor, and as Lisa described, this collapse took place on the rooftop of the 4-story building, so really the 5th story of this building, and pancaked all the way down to the very bottom. They are not exactly sure whose body it is right now because they cannot go in it because they are concerned about the building collapsing further. It's not safe for anybody to go in. The presumption at this point by city officials is that the body is that of the male supervisor from that parking garage, but they still need to find out. They're also trying to account for a woman who was in the process of trying to retrieve her car when the trouble began. Their hope is that she was able to get out in time, but until they actually go in and dissect the scene here, they're not going to be absolutely sure. Now, the other thing to mention, the Department of Buildings right now indicating that this building was not a troubled property for them. There are no active 311 calls regarding this property, and the last issue that they have on record dated back to the early 2000s, and seems to be an issue that was resolved by the end of the year 2010. So certainly not a problematic part of it. Now, the other thing we want to talk to you about are the witnesses that we spoke with here. Two of them brought up the freight elevator of that garage. Obviously, it's something that's going to have to handle a good amount of weight, given that it's moving cars from floor to floor there. One individual had a car parked there, and when the collapse took place, he called and reached one of the parking garage employees who was trapped in the freight elevator. We heard about an employee who was rescued. Presumably, that employee was rescued out of the freight elevator. Another witness lives in the building next door. She indicated that there have been problems in the past and talked about how this time when she heard a problem, it sounded different. Let's take a listen in.
I thought it was the freight elevator going up or down, but then it got louder, and then there was a movement noise that was not the usual sound. So then all of a sudden the building was starting to shake tremendously, and the noise also was quite loud.
We're tagging out after this. Again, the Department of Buildings right now trying to find a safe way to enter that building through the use of drones or whatever have you. They're also assessing the structural integrity of the buildings that surround this parking garage, and until they feel like it's safe, they're not going to let anybody go inside. That's the latest from down here at the scene. We'll go back to you, Teresa.
All right, Arthur, thank you.